introduction into this book so that you get the general idea of what's happening. I understand why people say paybacks are a bitch. It's tough to work to pay someone back in your life who has been given to you since you were born. You see, when I came into this world, I came in having two mothers. And it seems like these two old ladies sure know the ropes, because they've got me hopping around like a chicken with her head cut off, paying them back big time. By the time I clean up the kitchen from breakfast dishes and whatnot, I'm setting the table back up because these two old gals are sitting at the table again, waiting for their lunch to be served. I guess it goes that way with older folks. Their stomachs seem to empty out faster. You probably guessed by now, these are the two mothers who took care of me when I was a little girl, and now it's my turn to take care of them. Oh, by the way, if you think you might stop by for dinner some evening, come early. They want dinner served up and on the table by 4 o'clock. There are some mornings when I'm so exhausted and think, did I sleep? Because it feels like I've just kissed them on the cheek and tucked them into their beds. It seems like minutes before long that I hear them hollering from their rooms of my pretty Victorian house on the beach in Ocean Grove, New Jersey, for their morning cup of coffee. That's also a time when I get the delicate responsibility to sort out which false teeth are whose, soaking on top of the sink in the guest bathroom. But I do. They're my mothers. I love every inch of them, every cell of their wrinkled bodies. They're the ladies who grew me up to be the woman I am today. And by standards of how I lived my life up until now, I'll say they did a pretty good job. They're out there right now, sitting on my front porch, rocking in those old wooden rockers, kind of like a duet, rocking and breathing in the fresh salted air. The one in the left rocker with the puffy silver coif, that's my mother Millie. The other one with the pixie white haircut, rocking herself silly, not hearing a thing Millie is saying to her. That's Nanny, Mama and her sister Jenny. So just so you know, Nanny and Aunt Jenny are the same person. But when I was a little girl, I couldn't say Jenny, so she became Nanny. And I'm going to read a little bit from the first chapter. I go back there often in my mind. I see myself standing in front of Nanny's door, the old brown pane cracked, the brass doorknob loose with age. I want to knock, but I'm startled by my mother's voice calling out to me. I'll make you coffee, she says. Come upstairs. I'll make you coffee. I stop. Her voice cracks. She panics that I might leave before she sees me. Oh, Mother, how can I tell you it's too late for coffee? There are people waiting for me out in the cold. I do want to linger a little longer outside Nanny's door, hoping that I'll hear the floor creak and her tiny feet shuffling to come rescue me. It's my childhood that all floods back, the place where I was born, the house that holds me hostage and keeps me from going home. I guess it's like that with mothers and daughters and aunties. It's like that when you don't know to whom you belong or to whom you owe your allegiance. I get caught up in remembering those days and why I can't untangle the web of too many mothers, too many emotions, and too many lies. I remember it like yesterday, the day when Mama and Nanny set up shop on Hoyt Street. It happened on a sunny day in the spring of 1950. I stood on the sidewalk in front of the grocery store with its windows engraved in black letters, J&M Grocery. J&M stood for Jenny and Millie. Even though my mother's given name is Amelia, everybody calls her Millie or Mill, my father's pet name for her. I helped them decorate the base of the window before the grand opening, when the driver from the Reinhold beer truck pulled up and put on a neon light in the window. That's when we stacked the tomato cans in the shape of a pyramid and placed the blue pasta boxes in front of the cans. Different shapes of pasta, not the fresh kind Grandpa used to sell in his factory a long time ago. The real cans of tomatoes and the real boxes of pasta were stacked on the shelves inside the store. It wasn't a new store. It It had been broom swept by Mama and Nanny to get rid of the old remnants of hooks and eyes from the brazier factory. In the late 40s, women, including my mother and aunts, did homework so they could make a couple of extra dollars a week. The familiar items of white hooks and stays that tightened bra straps around a woman's chest I had seen many times before in my mother's nightstand drawers. I remember my mother and her 4 sisters sitting at Grandma Patrina's kitchen table, chatting and working with their hands in unison. To think 2 of those women were starting their own business today. I felt so proud of them. My chest puffed up like I won the damn spelling bee. I'm going to go on to just one more segment. They came from Sicily, my grandparents, and it was difficult for them to leave the old country, but there really wasn't very much left for them there. My grandfather had been threatened, and he knew that the town was turning different, and he delivered bread to the bread stores, horse and wagon, or however he did it in Italy. I don't have all of the facts. And this part of the journey is why my publisher calls this a fictional memoir. Because I have all the facts of the ship that they came on. I found the manifest numbers from Ellis Island. I have a picture of the ship, I sent away for it, that they traveled on. My grandparents, which are Katrina and Giovanni, and my Uncle Charlie, whose real name is Salvatore. So you can ask me why they call him Charlie. I think it's because they didn't want anybody to know they were Sicilian. So this is the journey in my head that I see that they took down from their house. The journey begins in the darkness of night on a donkey cart that my grandfather borrowed from Vincenzo, his one and only male companion. Grandma and 4-year-old Salvatore sit on a cracked wooden seat as Grandpa steers the donkey through the rocky, steep hills down to the port of Sicily. Many times during the night, Grandpa wants to give up, his hands rope-burned and torn apart by the donkey's unwillingness to move. But then he looks back at his wife and his son asleep in her lap and knows that he has to push harder to be on board the ship by 6 a.m. My grandmother only pretends to be asleep with Salvatore cushioned against her. Tears fall down her cheeks as she watches her husband struggle to keep steady, trying not to stumble around the huge stones beneath his feet. Grandpa carries with her a black pouch that contains a bottle of red wine, a bottle of cold water. She also has a loaf of bread tucked inside with a piece of goat cheese from the Easter Vigil wrapped in a linen napkin for their morning meal. It would be enough to sustain them through the trip down this most ungodly of hills. Grandma Patrina turns to look up the hill once more, the hill where she chased her chickens back into their pen. She can't believe she's going down this hill to leave Palermo forever. The boy stirs in her lap, and she soothes his head until he falls back asleep. The night air chills her, and she pulls the child's blanket closer to warm both their bodies. She wonders how many people will make the trip across the ocean and be squeezed in like rats down a hole. She promises herself she will not get sick. Giovanni stops the cart. Katrina looks at him. He's pointing to his mouth, not wanting to wake their son. He's thirsty. She pulls out the bottle of drinking water. He whispers, "Mama, voglio vino." Grandma hands him the bottle of wine, and he takes a long swig. "Bene, bene," he says, wiping his long mustache. He hands the bottle back to her. Katrina returns it to the pouch and takes a drink of water that cools her mouth before she puts it away. Her green eyes stare up at the stars in the heavens. Ah, no rain, she thinks. She's happy that at least the weather is on her side. The cart moves again, and the rocking makes her drowsy. Before long, her eyes close, her head slumps, and she falls into a deep sleep. She pictures their new home in America, a house with many windows, on a street where neighbors come to wish her buongiorno. In her dream, she sees the house lit by an oil lamp at dusk, and she envisions her children playing in the front yard. After many hours of travel, the cart jerks to a stop. Katrina and the child wake up to meet the sun's golden rays breaking through the darkness of night. Grandma sees the port of Sicily in her immediate vision. There are many people gathered with satchels at their feet, and Grandma clutches a black bag where the signed sponsor's papers are carefully secured. Giovanni looks lovingly at his wife and son. His hazel eyes beam with delight at his accomplishment. Katrina's heart hurts when she sees the raw blisters on his hands. She motions to him to come to her. She takes the goat cheese out from between the white cloth and lays it down on top of the couch. Giovanni comes to her side and extends his hands in front of her. Grandma's sensitive heart makes her weep for his pain. She pours the water delicately onto the cloth and blots the blood and hurt away from Grandpa's wounds. Then she pours the water slowly to cool his blisters. His wounds remind her of Christ's hands at the crucifixion, an image she has seen many times in the stained glass windows and paintings on the walls of the church and the piazza. Such suffering one does for one's family, she thinks. Giovanni takes the water from her and swallows big gulps, and then gives it to his son, who stares bleary-eyed at his father. Katrina cuts small portions of the goat cheese for each of them and pulls apart the bread into 3 pieces. They eat quietly as they watch the people waiting to board the ship named Perugia that will take them to America. Thank you.